So you just heard Haydn, Opus 20, number 2, one of the seminal moments, one of those moments in music history that really changed the course of music history. 1771 or so. There's 6 in the set. And I like to read this quote. This is a great setup to the whole idea of what Opus 20 is about, from Sir Donald Francis Tovey, great British musicologist. He says, "Every page of the 6 Opus 20 quartets is of historic and aesthetic importance. There is perhaps no single opus in the history of instrumental music that has achieved so much and so quietly." Now, the quietly meaning that this music, a lot of hardcore fans and musicians alike are not aware of it like they are of, say, late Beethoven quartets. But this was at a time in the history of music that was transitioning towards late Beethoven, and the influence of these 6 quartets is hard to overestimate. And so you may be saying, well, what's the big deal? The big deal right off the bat, you heard the first movement with a cello solo, right? I mean, This is democracy at work. And in 1770, the string quartet was not really about democracy. It was about first violin licks and accompanying 3 voices. So to start with this idea of democracy, and throughout this quartet, the cello really plays a leading role. In some ways, the most powerful thing you notice in all of these 6 Opus 20 quartets, and in some ways this one most powerfully of all, is this incredible connection to human emotion and drama. And the second movement, marked Capriccio, not because it's lighthearted, because it quickly changes emotional characters. This is really looking far into the Romantic era. And again, at this point in history, the idea that you can connect really deeply to human emotion was not something that the composers in the Galant style were doing.
What's really cool, though, about this, though, in particular, that movement you're talking about, it's both romantic, but he's using the gestures of the Baroque.
Right. It's almost like a Greek tragedy.
Yeah,
in a sense.
right. You have that kind of unison drama, terror, almost. But, it's both looking backwards and forwards. It's
right.
Really, really brilliant. Right.
But he's doing stuff that late Beethoven did, and gets a lot of the credit for these groundbreaking genre issues, and the juxtaposition of that unison first theme and then the cello playing it in piano, transforming it totally. It's really a one of the great statements.
Extreme dynamic contrast.
Right,
That's
another-
so interesting because Beethoven and Schubert to some degree too, of course. Those two guys get so much credit, and they did it a little bit later than this, perhaps. But Haydn obviously is doing it. Certainly in this movement, the second movement. I mean, it's remarkable how that intensity comes out from those contrasts.
And his personality as a composer. I mean, you listen to the fugue. You know, again, like the most Baroque,
Right.
learned style form you could possibly create, and it's this, you know, joking, full of whimsy, full of kind of lightness and air and humor, and of course, sempre sotto voce, which is always hushed, which is, you know, just a great setup for a joke in the end.
Until near the end when it isn't sotto voce anymore,
Yeah.
where it's just really loud. Talk about contrast.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing, if you tuned in the middle of the performance and you're, why are they playing so quietly? And that's sort of this cosmic instruction from Haydn, as Owen said, to play sempre sotto voce. And of course, it's all about the setup. But again, this moment in history, Haydn reaching back and connecting to the complexities of the Baroque era, something that was totally frowned upon through the Galant period. The Baroque music was gone. And so to write 3 of these Opus 20 quartets ending with these full 4-part fugues, and in this case he proudly says, he's very cute, he says, with 4 subjects, so it's a 4-part fugue with 4 different subjects, and it's a tremendous virtuoso display of contrapuntal writing by Haydn. And the last piece of this puzzle of what really became the classical period string quartet is his connection to folk idioms. I mean, he created the idea and the genre of the string quartet, but now, especially in Opus 20, connecting to folk music. So the minuet is a country dance with drones and the whole deal, and in contrast, the trio sort of harkens back to the emotional power of the slow movement. So it's this nutshell, these 4 movements, this incredible model that Haydn set up, and it's hard to overestimate the effect it had on music, all, especially string quartets that were to follow.